Good morning. So we are live on location at Pine Hollow Arboretum in Slingerlands, just really about a 10-minute drive from St. Rose. Really easy to get to. Great place to come visit when the weather is nice, which today, fortunately, it was. I was going to actually record most of this tour earlier than this, but the weather has not cooperated. So today we have a nice warm day. So we got an opportunity to get out here. I can show you some of the landforms. Pine Hollow Arboretum is named because it's this area where there's a lot of, you can kind of see as I slowly pan around here, there's some ridges and there's some low places. The spot that I'm panning towards right now is this ridge-like formation. The Arboretum and the original person who designed the Arboretum just as a fun hobby project, Dr. John Abule, who was a famous doctor in the Bethlehem area back in the day. He actually used this ridge to plant a bunch of fir species because firs are a type of conifer that some of them like high and dry locations. So the soils here at Pine Hollow are pretty sandy on the ridges and on the high spots, but they can also get pretty mucky down in the low spots between the ridges. And as I pan around here, I'm looking more towards the Arboretum and where most of the plantings are. And you can see what's slowly coming into view here is actually a pond. So Dr. Abule noticed that this piece of land, after he first built his house here, way back in the day, had all of these different topographical features. There were some really nice like ridges, and as I pan around, you can see there's right on the other side of the pond, there's like another ridge type formation here. There were all of these like high and low spots. So he had soils that were really high and dry and sandy, and he also had some lower soils, or soils in the lower areas that were more wet and mucky. So he invested a lot of time into slowly, some of these lower areas, he actually excavated them, which nowadays you'd need all kinds of paperwork and permitting to do that. But back in like the 50s and 60s when he did most of this work, he basically just hired somebody or he rented a machine and basically just dug these low places out. And because the water table is so close to the surface, they basically just fill themselves in with water, and now they're ponds. So I'm gonna kind of look around here, turn back to where we started the tour. And on the other side of the pond, the low space continues. You can see there's like a little stream that works its way out of the pond. But this other spot here, he didn't excavate. So it's kind of like this low area that will become really wet. If we have a lot of precipitation or a heavy snow melt, you can see it's actually like from the fall, it kind of filled up with water and it froze over. So it's just icy now. During the spring, it'll kind of fill back up with water, and it will be what we call a vernal pool, which is this low area that groundwater will basically fill up. And it's just incredible habitat for all kinds of insects and frogs and other amphibians and herps, and just really incredible habitat. And this is what a lot of the spots here at Pine Hollow looked like before Dr. Abule went and excavated some of them. There are a couple more ponds. There's kind of like this sequence of low areas here, but this is an example of a spot that's not fully excavated. So he kind of left this low spot as sort of wild habitat surrounding the Arboretum. And this woodland here, we're actually like on the edge of the Arboretum. We're kind of looking over into, or at least towards, neighbor's land. We can find all kinds of wildlife here because this is pretty much just a wild area. And you can see there's a few trail signs, and there's some, if we walk forward here, the trails are very icy. So I'm going to try to walk and master the ability to not make you nauseous as I walk, and also not slip and fall and hurt myself. But you can see here's our trail marker. And there's a little trail system here at Pine Hollow. Pine Hollow is not a big place. I think it's somewhere between like 5 and 10 acres. So it's impossible to get lost, really close to campus. Nice place to just walk around, de-stress a little bit. And in this area here, I came here in the spring to record. Last year after COVID shut us down, sent us virtual, I actually found a porcupine wandering around in this area here, and I didn't get too close to him because you don't want You don't want to end up with porcupine quills sticking out of you. That can be very painful. But it was kind of cool to be able to just drive about 10 minutes from campus and be in such a wild area. So before I start to move on to some of the planted areas, which are going to feed into our topic of ex situ conservation for this lab, I'm going to just walk up to where this trail meets this ridge up here. Just give you kind of an overview of what the surrounding landscape looks like. So they call this the Glacier Ridge Trail, which is a good name for it because a lot of the soils here were deposited by water and by ice, and probably mostly by water while these glaciers were melting. So if we were going to go and visit the Albany Pine Bush Discovery Center like we usually do for this class, we would see that they have this really, really cool setup where you can see this glacier and how high it is relative to the Albany Pine Bush Discovery Center itself. And seeing this glacier that's like 2 miles high to scale next to the Discovery Center gives you an appreciation for how much ice was here. So when this ice melted, it actually formed a lake over the Albany area, which is called Glacial Lake Albany. And through wind and wave action, all kinds of sand and silt and sediment were deposited by wave and wind action. And if you look at the landscape here, you can kind of see that there are these, if you just think about the shape of the land under the trees, it almost looks like sand dunes. And that's basically what these are. These are wind and water developed sand dunes from back in these times, like immediately after the Ice Age. So I'm going to hit the pause button and we're going to pick this up over in an area where there are more trees planted, and we're going to start looking into this topic of ex situ conservation and how institutions like Pine Hollow Arboretum are really, really important for that.